Why chiropractic?
You have this neck pain. Why? Probably because you sit like this all day. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, so let's take the biggest, broadest, easiest solution and just get your joints in the opposite direction. Every new patient that I see is a brand new puzzle to solve. Two people can come in that point to the exact same spot on their knee or their low back or their neck or whatever, and they need two wildly different treatment approaches because they have two wildly different things going on. Mm-hmm. I want to push people again from the pain care into the rehab, seamlessly into the fitness, so that they never really come back around, at least to the same level, to the pain care side of things. I just want to give people the tools, and put the responsibility in their hands.
Welcome to the Higher Form Podcast, where high performance meets real life. We talk about how to grow with intention, lead with clarity, and feel strong in every season. Welcome back to the Higher Form Podcast. Today, I have the founder of Trajectory Spine and Strength with me. He is a father, a fitness guy, a chiropractor, Mr. Brandon Reed. Welcome to the show.
That's me.
That's me.
Glad to be here.
Cool, man. Well, I'm excited to sit down and chop it up with you. We'll try to keep things on point and tightened up as we go through.
It'll be a challenge.
We'll
figure it out.
But we'll make it work. I think the easiest way to start is just kind of backtracking. I think our paths crossed before we realized they crossed when we were both Kansas State Wildcat Recreational Center users.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you worked the front desk?
No, dude. Come on. Give me a break.
You had a more important job?
Attendant.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So how did we meet though the second time, the first official time? Instagram?
Social media.
Yeah. I think I saw that you had a gym and I was just like,
because you guys had just moved back from Nashville, correct?
Yeah. And then I was just following anybody and everybody in these like kind of adjacent spaces, reached out to you and we met for coffee. And that was like either my or your first question was like, how do we know each other? Because because we know each other from somewhere else.
I swore that you looked like a dude that played basketball at Lifetime when I worked there forever. Because I think I remember asking you, like, did you used to be a member of Lifetime?
Yeah, that's right.
You're like, no, dude, not at all.
Yeah, so eventually we got to the fact that we're both K-State guys, and you were working at the rec while I was working out at the rec or dabbling and working at the rec too. But
you were powerlifting at the time, weren't you?
Yeah. I was with the old Stuber brothers.
Yeah,
they were putting up big weight.
Yeah.
Them, not me.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Did you have a mustache then too?
Nope. The mustache has been, Megan told, I dabbled with the mustache a little bit, but Megan told me I couldn't have it until I was officially a doctor. And so after I graduated chiropractic school, I was like, mustache, let's go.
Yeah. So you had to earn that thing.
That's right. Yeah.
You could grow it before that though?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I don't think I could rock the mustache, man.
Yeah, and back then you had hair up top, but not down low, probably.
Yeah, dude, and it's like as it took off up top, it filled in down low. I guess I had that little chin beard in college, man.
Oh, did you?
It's like you're dying for facial hair when you're 20 years old. You're like, I've got to have something.
Oh, my worst one was a thin line.
No, you didn't do it.
Not good, dude. I have like 4 or 5 pictures. Like it was a very short time because I think I caught on like pretty quick that I was just like, this is not a good look, dude. Like, come on, figure it out.
Yep.
But those 4 or 5 pictures, you look back at them and it's like, dude, that's not a good choice. The really thin, all the way around the jawline.
Yeah.
Not cool.
I don't think I ever tried that one. But anyways, we both did you study pre-physical therapy, pre-chiro?
I did the dual track between nutrition and kinesiology.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went 5 years on purpose.
On accident.
Yeah, and it happens. So I'm just glad I didn't have to do a 6-year victory lap.
Yeah. So did you double major then?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I knew that you went some type of like precursor to chiro school, and then you went to chiropractic school here in Kansas City.
Yeah.
At Cleveland.
Yep. That was a pretty easy choice because Megan had gotten a job working for Hallmark downtown. And then, I grew up in Gardner, so this was kind of like home for me. And at the time, it was just it was a kind of no-brainer.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to move to St. Louis or Davenport, Iowa, or Atlanta to go to any other chiropractic school.
The only other one in the Midwest that I'm aware of is the one in St. Louis. I don't know.
Yeah, there's Chicago too.
Okay.
There's you can go up to Davenport, Iowa. There's one in Minnesota somewhere. So
why chiropractic?
In undergrad, I got the 2 degrees, and at that point, like every option was equally enthralling for me. It was like you can, apart from like the late stage nutrition classes where they're like, to do a feeding pump for this patient with this terminal disease, you have to have, and I was just like, I don't care to do that. I'm glad somebody does, but that doesn't sound interesting to me. Everything else did. And so it was getting to be, like, okay, you have 1 year till you graduate. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I felt that
And
pressure too.
yeah, and I was just like, I don't know, because it all sounds cool. And so I started shadowing a bunch of people. The one thing I knew that I didn't want to do was sit behind a desk. I didn't want to
Fair.
do computer work, which, to start off in those two majors was kind of, already leading me down that path.
Yep.
But I knew career wise, I didn't want to sit behind a desk. I didn't want to do computer stuff. So I just shadowed a bunch of people. And I ended up coming back here and shadowing my chiropractor who I grew up seeing.
Okay.
And basically, I was just like, hey, I'm here to see what you do. Pitch me on it.
Yeah.
And he was just like, well, one, he knew I didn't want to do computer stuff. So he's like, one, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Apart from, my notes and stuff. And then he's like, two, every new patient that I see is a brand new puzzle to solve. He's like, two people can come in that point to the exact same spot on their knee or their low back or their neck or whatever, and they need two wildly different treatment approaches because they have two wildly different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So they seem very similar, but they're not. And it's your job to kind of decipher what's going on, what they need, what they don't. And then he's like, and then other than that, it just keeps it fresh. Like socially, I interact with a new person every 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, that's good enough for me. Yeah. So I enrolled in chiropractic school, and the rest is history, I suppose.
And then right after you graduate, moved to Nashville?
Yeah, that was my first job out of chiropractic school, just because, again, we had been here and then 2 hours away at K-State and came right back here. And we were like, hey, we've never gone anywhere. If we're going to, let's do it before we have kids, before we get married or any of that.
Smart, man.
I guess we were married, but before we settle down,
Yeah.
it'll be easier to move away and try to build a life for ourselves somewhere else, as opposed to get locked in here and then move away from all our family and friends that we already have. So yeah, 2 years down in Nashville. The second year was COVID year. And it wasn't locked down by any means, but there was significantly less to do. Yeah. And it was less cool. There'd be, at every brunch spot, there'd be a 17-year-old kid there with a temp gun taking your temperature. He even knew what a normal temperature was. And things just were inconvenient enough to where we were just like, maybe we move back home. I was naive enough to think that I knew what I was doing to open my own practice. And so we rolled the dice and moved back.
That's pretty quick to turn around and take a leap for your own opportunity to get out on your own, I feel like. I mean, I don't know how many, I guess I don't know the difference between how many people go straight out of school and trying to create their own practice versus how many actually get into more established practices, learn for a while, then maybe transition. I don't know if that's...
it differs in the physical therapy space and the chiropractic space, I think. I think chiropractic, for whatever reason, either attracts or fosters more of the kind of entrepreneurial thing.
I would agree with that.
Whereas physical therapy, they just... And I think also another factor is that physical therapy is just embedded within... There's so many more opportunities for them to get into a multiple
disciplinary?
Yeah. Multidisciplinary practice.
Yeah.
Right? They can work at a hospital, they can go do, post-surgical rehab and stuff, where chiropractic's just okay, your only option is to work for somebody who's doing their own thing or go do your own thing.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I never really thought of it from that perspective. I came up more the pre-PT route. So I was it doesn't feel like that many people go out and be like, I'm going to start my own PT clinic right out of the gate. Where chiropractic, it definitely seems like it's a lot less of a barrier to entry to get to that point. I don't know. Yeah.
It's just more people do it in chiropractic, I'd say, than physical therapy.
So then trajectory, you want to talk about a little bit more around why the name, the vision behind the brand, just how you built your own brand and what that experience is like. Because still during the pandemic, moved back, because that would have been 2021 when you guys came back to Kansas City?
Yeah. Yep. I opened March of 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was kind of building this thing in my head as we were still living down there and moving back. And I settled on trajectory. I don't have a vivid memory of why I picked that word.
Yeah.
Apart from just liking the fact that it was a word to me that meant you're on the path, but you're not yet to the destination. Mm-hmm. And at any point in time, the trajectory can change.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And so I just picked trajectory. I went with spine and strength because I kind of wanted to integrate the strength side of things, the fitness side of things, and not just chiropractic and rehab or spine and sport. You know, the spine and sport is a little closer, but I wanted spine and strength because I want to push people again from the pain care into the rehab, seamlessly into the fitness, so that they never really come back around, at least to the same level, to the pain care side of things.
I think that was one of the things you and I connected on early on, is your thought process and mentality around the way that people should approach that gap from, injury to performance. I try to do the same thing. Like I said, everything is really geared on You know, where are you at today? Let's meet you there and start to just build up whatever the next piece is. But I love the fact that you talked about helping people continue to, you know, look at what that next step in the process is to stay on the right trajectory for where it goes, and that there never really is like an ending, you know, how things just like can always continue to compound and there's always opportunity to keep growing.
Yeah, you just have to look at like where are you headed now, and it can always change.
Yeah.
Like you change the trajectory, you change the destination, and honestly, I'm the total origin of the practice is that I'm just a meathead.
Yeah.
Again, we met at the rec first of all.
Yeah.
So the weightlifting stuff and just lifting and wanting to be stronger and more robust, that's kind of the oldest part of all of this within me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the way you approach treatment, I know that it isn't the traditional like come in, I'll give you a quick adjustment and I'll get you out. When you try to marry the chiropractic side with the strength side, how do you bring that to life in appointments with people? What does the process for you look like when somebody comes in and has this going on?
Yeah, honestly, doing that, adjusting people in and out all day long, one, that would be extremely boring for me, just doing the same thing over and over again. Again, not getting to like network and talk and build rapport with my people on such a long timeline, and I'm tend to be kind of more of a social guy, so I enjoy that aspect of it. But also, it's just like I just want to give people the tools, and put the responsibility in their hands, take it off my own shoulders a little bit, which, you know, that never hurts.
Yeah.
I'll kind of come to the 50-yard line, but you gotta meet me there.
Yep.
I'm not gonna walk 1 yard past where I need to be.
Yep.
I'll give you the tools, you need to use them. So for that, I bring people in, I do my assessment, which a lot of that is movement based, using repeated joint movements. Commonly those are the opposite of what the joints are doing all day. So we kind of get in this head forward posture. We get in this dumped pelvis, you know,
Every time you
rounded.
Me, I'm like, am I sitting up straight right now?
So we kind of, and we all do it, right? Like I know better, but we still just end here. And so a lot of the times these repeated movements can kind of fix people's issues that they're having very quickly. But then there are things that we can do in terms of like improving their function. If they have a fitness or performance goal, we can kind of reach into that with some rehab strategies. Loading for tendinopathies is huge, where like movement's got to be part of our treatment. And then from just a passive standpoint, like in terms of the adjustment not being the only thing, it's dry needling, it's hands-on soft tissue work, it's cupping. I can do some taping. So it's a little bit of everything to keep me sane and entertained. And then just like I find stacking those modalities doesn't only have an additive effect, it's kind of multiplicative. So it just all kind of compounds.
Sounds like you work from like the deepest level to the more superficial level. Does that make sense at all? From like a joint perspective to like then the muscle side of it and the connective tissue, and you're treating all of those things through different modalities, or am I
Yeah,
off
it's
in the wrong?
so I just call it comprehensive.
Okay.
And I actually take the opposite. The way I explain it to people is like I treat like a funnel, basically, right?
Okay.
So I
I was
start
thinking
with the
more
big
like
broad.
I was thinking more upside down. Is that why the logo is that way?
No, not necessarily. It's like more, it's meant to be like a paper airplane type thing, you know,
okay.
like you throw a paper airplane and it's got
Yeah,
a
yeah,
trajectory. No, so I kind of explain it to people this way, right? Like you have this neck pain. Why? Probably because you sit like this all day. And I'm just like, so let's take the biggest, broadest, easiest solution and just get your joints in the opposite direction. I'm not going to deep dive anything that doesn't need to have a deep dive done
Keep
on
it simple.
Yeah. And so my approach is very superficial. It's the easiest, simplest solution. And then from there, if we stall out or like we're not getting where we need to go, then it's like, okay, let's deep dive this thing. Let's dig in. Let's get a little more granular. And I have a lot of people like in terms of asymmetries that come to me and they're like, well, I notice my left shoulder's always higher than my right shoulder. Okay. How much higher? Does it matter? Like what's
caught up on that stuff though?
Yeah, and it kind of depends. So I'm always constantly looking for like, what's the thing your mom or your grandma would notice? You know, if you walked in, you hadn't seen your mom in a handful of months, and you walk into her house, hey mom, how's it going? Give her a hug, and she steps back and she goes, you know, sweetie, your left shoulder's higher than your right shoulder. Then I'm like, okay, that's probably a problem.
Yeah.
Like for her to take note of that.
Yeah.
But if it's you standing in front of a mirror and like really looking, going like, okay, this is 3 millimeters higher than the right one. Generally, I don't care. You know, that's just called being a human in my mind.
Yeah. I think there's room for imperfection, and due to judgment and all the shit we see online, it's like you have to be perfectly symmetrical. You have to look like this. You have to do that. You know, and it makes sense when you strip it down and make it really simple like that, but I think it's easy to overanalyze.
Yeah. And again, so like sometimes it comes down to that. Like, okay, yeah, we've explored every other possible solution and we're not where we want to be. So like, let's address the asymmetry, the minor asymmetry. But until we get to that point, like let's do the big things first.
So what that brings to mind something that I feel like I hear people say when I'm sitting like a consultation sometimes. They're like, well, my chiropractor told me that my left leg is longer than my right leg. How do you feel about like that thing? Because I feel like you hear that a lot, like where people are talking about how one leg's an inch longer than another one. And I'm like, is that real? Is that common? I know you talk about these natural imperfections, but what's your take on that whole thing?
I don't do any leg length discrepancy based treatments or techniques. There are a lot that rely on that heavily. Again, I just like, to me, it's getting in the weeds, and it's, there's basically stuff where it's like, there's user error, right? So you're going to be the one tractioning the legs, pulling them up. If you move them left, obviously this one goes higher. If you move them slightly right, this one goes higher. So like, it's going to be different every time.
Yep.
And I already have treatments that are effective for that stuff. So I don't at this point care to explore any of that. In my mind, it's all a little, again, too granular. And if you want to really, really dig in on that, it's all just like, to me, that stuff is just putting unnecessary fear into people's minds.
Tell me more about what you mean by that.
So somebody comes to you and they're like, I want to train, I want to get a better squat, I want to get in better shape, whatever. And then they go, but like my chiropractor told me that my left leg is 6 millimeters longer than my right.
My ears are turning red as you're talking about this, because it's what happens when things like really frustrate the shit out of me.
Yeah. And so like, and you're sitting there like, are you going to let that stop you? Like you're going to let that stop you from getting in better shape and getting strong and building robustness. And for a lot of people, it does.
Yeah. The answer is yes. 100%.
Yeah. And so like, and people a lot of times are looking for any excuse that they can use to do the hard thing, which you guys do the hard thing here. You bust ass and you train people and you get them in good shape.
Yep.
But like a lot of people, if they have one thing that they can get hung up on, they'll use it.
I feel like that's one of the most frustrating things in the world, when you run into someone who has been seeing a practitioner, physical therapist, chiropractor, the two that I'm like mostly leaning into, and they fearmonger the shit out of these people around all the things that they can't do. And they put all these limitations on them. Well, you can't do this. You shouldn't do that. You need to be on rest. And I know you are obviously on the train of movement being medicine. So it's just so crazy to me when you run into, like, how do people go to the same chiropractic school and leave and treat so differently? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Why is there so much discrepancy? And you could ask the same thing about personal training, I'm sure too, right? Two trainers go get an NASM cert and they both practice completely different. So I'm not oblivious to the fact that people have their own thoughts and beliefs and preferences, but it just blows my mind, and quite frankly pisses me off when people have been given these expectations that they're supposed to be so limited, when in all reality, I'm like, movement's going to help, even if it just has to be modified, you know?
Yeah, I actually find myself taking away more like named diagnoses that other providers have given people. Like, oh, I have this disc herniation. Okay, well, we just fixed it with, we just alleviated 60% of your symptoms with 10 sets of 10 press ups.
Yeah.
So like, did you? I don't know. And like a lot of people too are quick to sling out, you have a disc herniation. Well, do you have an MRI? No, he just told me. Okay. So we don't know. And so it's like a lot of providers are so quick to sling out these named diagnoses that.
Why do you think that is? Is that like an ego thing, or is it like?
Yeah, I don't know if it's an ego thing or I think it's maybe a little bit of both, or maybe they're just like, maybe they are fully confident that that's what's going on. But I just don't have that confidence. I'm like, you can go get an MRI and we can find out. But until you have that like actual proof, I'm going to call it, you tweaked your low back. Right. And so because that's not scary. And nobody carries that around, like a rotator cuff tear. You tore your rotator cuff. Okay. How do they know? Did they do an MRI? Did you have did you have a surgical consult? No, he like pressed on my shoulder and it felt weak.
Yeah.
Okay. Big deal. You tweaked your shoulder.
Yeah.
Nobody carries that around into like a consult with you for like, oh, I tweaked my shoulder a couple years ago. And you go, okay, we'll approach it cautiously.
We'll see how it moves.
Right.
We're
going to approach it with caution, but people can come in and they go, well, I tore my rotator cuff, and they can like kind of inflate these issues of a name diagnosis that a provider gave them on a whim. And they can use that again as an excuse to not move, to be overly cautious when movement is the thing that they need to ultimately build the robustness and get in better shape and get out of pain.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It's just not overcomplicating things. It's keeping it as simple as we can so that we don't lead ourselves down a path that isn't clear around whether or not that's actually a problem.
Yeah, and again, like once it becomes an issue, and I haven't been able to fix your shoulder issue with all the things that I offer, then yeah, I'm going to boot you off for an MRI, and we're going to get imaging on your shoulder. And if you have a rotator cuff tear, okay, cool. I'm glad to call it that.
Yeah.
Until I'm given like absolute reason to call it that, I'm just like, let's keep it casual. You tweaked it. Big deal.
Yeah.
We'll get over it.
Yeah. It makes sense. Another question that's I think is good to explain is I know you're not always quick to make adjustments for some things just for the sake of it, right? Like I think sometimes people go to the chiropractor like I just need my back popped or my hip split back in or my neck cracked. Can you explain like what's actually even happening with an adjustment and the value of when to do it versus when not to do it?
Yeah, and again, like you've already hit on this, there's a handful of different schools of thought
Yeah.
in terms of the, if you want to go to like maybe what we call the super holistic provider, they're looking at the spine as the column that houses the spinal cord. The brain runs down the spinal cord. Every nerve exits out of the spine and innervates every tissue that you have. And so a lot of those providers will say, okay, by influencing the spine, if there are any like misalignments or impingements there, we're affecting the flow of the nerves outward towards these tissues, and therefore I can affect these tissues.
It feels like that makes sense though.
Yeah, and it might.
Okay.
Right? I'm just not gonna say that I can affect your kidney disease by adjusting your spine.
Gotcha,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, to me, that's just a bold claim to make. I've had a couple people come to me and they're like, hey, I have XYZ condition. And we just kind of call those organic diseases. I have this organic disease. Would adjustments help? And the way that I approach that is just like, we can give it a shot. I'm not going to promise you anything, but like, if it helps, great, cool.
Yeah.
And then there's the approach that I take, which is more just like, yeah, your joints just got a little sticky. Things are just locked up. We need to just unlock them, free the movement. And then that's where the additional stuff in terms of the exercise comes into play, where it's like, okay, we unlocked these joints with a big impulse of a big adjustment. Now go home and keep them unlocked by moving those joints around with these specific exercises.
Hold the adjustment.
Yeah. Hold the adjustment.
I feel like you were the one that have you talked about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty big on that. Yeah, because a lot of people say, like in a follow-up visit, oh, well, he said my adjustment didn't hold. So he had to, so he wants to treat me more often so that the adjustment holds. And in my mind, that's a lazy approach, because your job as a provider is to give that person, or the way I see my job as a provider is that my job is to provide that person the tools that they need to take care of themselves.
Yep.
Which is, again, the exercise for them to hold that adjustment by keeping it nice and mobile after I move it and really do like the big unlock.
Yeah. Well, I think that's that mindset of helping people proactively avoid those things versus always being the reactive solution.
Right.
Where it's just like, I don't want you to have to rely on scheduling with me 2 or 3 days a week for the next 12 weeks to be able to do that, which from a business perspective is like, all right, well, that's fair. That's going to get you a lot of opportunity.
It's not a great business model.
Really?
I've had many people come to me or like, so I treat out of the gym, obviously, I've had plenty of gym members come to me, when I'm in there taking CrossFit class or whatever, and they go, hey, I was going to shoot you a text and book an appointment the other day, but like, cause my back was kind of hurting, but then I did some of my press ups that day and I was just good, which is like, cool. I'm glad that I was the guy to provide that solution, but like that's a follow-up visit that now doesn't hit my bank account as a business owner.
Yeah.
So it's this like fine balance where you're like, I love to provide the tools to people, but sometimes that means they don't need you. Like they're less dependent on me because of me.
To me, it says a lot more about what your intentions are and that they're pure, that you're really truly trying to help people, not just stack it up. Because I know people who are the type of chiropractors who do take more of that frequent visit model. And like you said, to each their own, it is what it is. That's not how you choose to provide it, but it says a lot about what your intentions are whenever you're not like, all right, cool, let's see you again here in 2 days,
Yeah. And it's hard. It's really hard for me to distinguish myself from those people, because those people get a hell of a lot of people better.
Yeah.
And so like there really is just like, in the consumer's mind, it's just got to be the right fit for them, and they have to kind of want that, because again, the guy who just like, apart from you driving to his office and sitting there in the waiting room and whatever you have to do to go through the mechanics of that, like it's definitely easier.
That's what I was literally just getting ready to say.
You just lay on the table, he does his thing, and you leave, versus like when you leave my office, you're going to be doing an exercise every few handful of hours, multiple times a day. Now it's going to be one exercise. I try not to overwhelm people in terms of the quantity that I give them, but like you have some responsibility here.
And like you said, I'm going to meet you at the 50, but not the 51.
Right. Yep. Right. And so it's harder in that regard. They have to be willing to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. But I do think that you can see both ends of it. It to me, that's like somebody getting on a GLP-1 versus exercising on a regular basis to lose weight. One of them is less work, while the other one is going to require more of a lifestyle type of intervention or focus. I would argue that based on my experience working with you and other practitioners to take the same approach, that I generally manage staying out of pain better because of that approach. So for me, maybe in the moment, yeah, it'd be easy to go have you meet with me 3 days a week and just lay on the table and just kind of let you do whatever you need to get my body back on track. I don't have to go see you as often. So from the consumer standpoint, out of my pocketbook, then we can get into insurance, and that could be a whole nother conversation. But it feels like if you're someone who understands the bigger picture, it makes more sense to go that route. I don't know. That's obviously my biased opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, to come back around to the GLP-1 thing, I'm also not doing that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's why not both?
I agree.
And so I do the adjustment, right?
Yeah.
It's all cool, but then you also get the tool. You also get the lifestyle intervention.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like you're just going through and saying like, well, we're not going to adjust you today because you don't need it.
Yeah, and a lot of times they don't need it, but I'm doing other stuff. I'm addressing the tissues from a dry needling standpoint, or soft tissue work, that type of stuff.
I feel like that stuff in the active community, there's more awareness around it, but from people who maybe aren't as active, what is the value of doing something like dry needling? I know that's a tool or modality you use quite a bit. Some of these different soft tissue approaches, can you just talk about why and how they play a role in the process? I know you're a big red light guy too. You recently got the vibration plate and some of these other tools, and you're building this broader and broader array of different things that you can treat beyond just the adjustment. Can you just speak a little bit on each one of those things and like what the value for each is?
Yeah, so the red light, I'm still like jury's out in terms of like how much can I have an effect when I'm beaming somebody with a red light for 8 minutes. And if you want to get into like high level laser, which is a super powerful, way more expensive red light, that you can have a much bigger effect. But the red light panel, to me, is a bit of an overpromise, but there's no downside to it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I might as well slap that on somebody while they're getting needled. The vibration plate is huge for me in terms of putting people on that right at the beginning of their session. So like in the first 5-10 minutes when we're talking and they're catching me up and I'm getting an update on how they did in that week or however long it's been since I've seen them, to just like overwhelm and blunt the nervous system. So like after you get off that vibration plate for 5 or 10 minutes, like I can jam my thumb so deep into your hamstring that you aren't going to register it.
Interesting.
Because the nervous system has just had to deal with this like huge input that's very confusing. And so it just kind of blunts everything else, which allows me to get a little bit more work done tissue wise. The dry needling is huge for like stimulating these kind of micro traumas in the tissue that we want to then target and load. So like I dry needle a lot of tendinopathies.
Okay.
And then we of course load them after we've kind of done this purposeful inflammatory thing.
Yeah.
And then the hands-on soft tissue work is just getting kinks out and getting an input into the muscles. The adjustment obviously is working on the joints, but then we want to work everything around that joint in terms of supporting structures and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all does a little bit. And then at the end, it all adds up to be like a lot.
Yeah. Well, like you said, very specific inputs for specific things, and being able to kind of treat the broader like scale of what's going on versus just, one modality being like, let's do this, get you out in 5 minutes and go.
Right. Yeah.
How long are your typical appointments?
So I do a couple of different styles. I run a full 1 hour new patient appointment just to make sure that I know what I'm dealing with. And then I treat on day one because most of the time. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And then I do a half-hour follow-up, which is just table treatment. And then I push some people into what I call hybrid care, which is half an hour or, anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes on the table in the treatment room. And then we push them right into some guided exercise stuff.
Okay, cool.
That's a little bit more than just like, go do this exercise at home. I'm going to show you, and then you go do it. It's like, we're going to take you through 30, 40 minutes worth of this loading stuff. And I'm going to make sure that you're getting the dose that you need to, and you're doing it right.
Yeah. So kind of that happy medium between giving them things to do, but also just like keeping them accountable to making sure it gets done in that moment. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to promise that you at least get a stimulus right now.
Yeah.
And
And
then
that's generally the bigger, the bigger stimulus in terms of the loading stuff. And then I send them home with like, okay, here's your 1 to maybe 2 exercises that you're accountable for outside of this place.
Okay. That makes sense, man. I'm going to pivot a little bit on your thoughts and views on parenthood and fitness. You just had your guys' second child, or I guess your wife had your second
Yeah.
child recently, but tell me a little bit about, I know you're very passionate about being fit as a parent and finding ways to make it integrate into your lifestyle. Why do you think it's so important for people as they get into parenthood to prioritize their health and fitness?
I've been thinking about this. I've been like mulling over this a lot lately.
Yep.
And what I've really been kicking around in my head, and hopefully I don't butcher this because I'm not sure I have an eloquent way of saying this.
We'll get there.
Fit parents, parents that aren't in pain, parents that know how to deal with their stress, parents that are sleeping well are better parents. And I don't mean that as a jab at parenting techniques or any of this stuff. I just mean relative to, if you're out of shape, we take the same person, same parenting style. If they're out of shape and they're in pain and they sleep terribly and they don't know how to deal with their stress, compared to, okay, now they've got it figured out. They're locked in. They hit the 4 main pillars of health, which are their nutrition, their movement, their sleep, and their stress management. Like, this is just a more resilient parent that when their toddler is bugging the hell out of them, they can just kind of take it on the chin and not overreact, which again is going to be negative for the kids.
Yep.
And so I just think like a healthy parent is a better parent, all else being equal.
Dude, you nailed it.
Yeah.
I love your 4 pillars. We talk about exercise, nutrition, and accountability or lifestyle, but can you say those one more time? The 4 pillars.
Mine are nutrition, movement, which is exercise plus, right? So movement is, yes, exercise, but also what are the things you're doing to break up your day? Because I see plenty of people that are in pain. They go to the gym, but they're still in pain because they don't move elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So they sit at their desk for 9 hours a day. They go to their 1-hour gym class and then they go sit on the couch.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, what else can we do movement wise to kind of break this thing up? So nutrition, movement, sleep is obviously a huge keystone habit. And then stress management or stress mitigation.
Yep.
Yeah.
How do you, I don't want to go back and forth between personal thoughts, but in practice, but how do you integrate those other pieces? I know you had the background in nutrition. Obviously, you take a holistic approach. You guys have chickens and a big garden. Like, you guys are very holistic in the way. I'd say maybe, I don't know if holistic is the right word. Maybe, is it minimalistic, or what am I trying to say here?
Eclectic, some may call it. I don't know. But yeah, we like the approach of like hitting this all with as much control as we can have.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we live on 1/3 of an acre in town. Luckily, we live in a non-HOA neighborhood, so we can have a giant garden and we can have 8 hens in the
They
backyard.
call it like urban homesteading. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and that's kind of like our ultimate dream, is to have a bigger chunk of land where we can just do what we're doing now on a bigger scale.
Yep.
But we really like to like get kind of as far deep as we can in terms of like just what we have control over. And so we have full control over what our hens eat, what we feed them, how we raise them, all the way up to like, yeah, now we get the eggs, versus like, even if you go get the pasture raised eggs or and there's so many weird
30 different labels on the egg section, bro.
Yeah, and it's very subjective. But like, even if you get the one that you think is right from a moral or health standpoint, like you still have no control over that. And so we're just kind of trying to control the inputs as deep down the line as we can get them.
It makes sense.
And
man.
we just enjoy that stuff. Again, like that gets us outside, which I think is huge. That puts our feet in the dirt. A lot of times we're out there gardening, and unfortunately the toddler steps in chicken shit a lot of times, but like it happens, man. Like we put our feet in the dirt almost every day, and we just try to stay grounded and connect with these 4 pillars as much as we can.
I love that. I think that something as simple as even being outside more often is wildly overlooked, especially when you talk about the whole stereotypical corporate lifestyle today where we sit at a desk for 8 hours and then we sit on our couch for a little bit. You know, you get, I see you share a lot on social around just like getting outdoors, taking your kids to a park, spending time in your garden, just soaking up some sun, man. And like you said, getting your feet in the dirt. I think that that's something so many people overlook from a just a mental and overall physical health standpoint. It feels like it's not as emphasized maybe as it should be.
Yeah, we're just like kind of blunted from our human nature. Like
Hmm.
we've gotten so far down, and I'm not like a paleo guy. Like let's go back to only eating um,
Yeah.
caveman style and anything like that. But I do think like there's value in thinking that way to a degree because yeah, like how many people like live weeks or years at a time, but before they go outside.
Yeah.
And they're like, people are afraid to step in the grass. And it's just this weird disconnect that we can have. Like you can live your whole life and not step out of your house. You can
Hmm.
live your life and really not be out in the elements and not be out in nature.
Hmm.
So I feel like just even a little bit more connection to that type of stuff can be really impactful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's harder to do it depending on where you live, but I think there's really no such thing as bad weather. You just gotta have the right gear to make it work, you
That's
know?
right. Yeah.
Gotta make it work. When you talk about, like back to the parenthood and fitness thing, I knew I was gonna get off track there, but kind of pulling back into that, what do you think are some simple, tactful things parents can do? Because it is overwhelming when you have multiple kids and you've got a bunch of shit on your plate and I've got this job and this meeting and my boss and I've got to take care of my parent who's getting older now, or I have all these responsibilities. What types of steps in the right direction would you recommend? Because I see you post a lot about things where it's like not trying to focus on perfection, but it's about moving the needle. You talk about moving dirt, another analogy that I love that you've used before. Can you just kind of share about, you know, how you help people move in the right direction, even though it may not be this optimal approach, you know?
Yeah, it's I mean that's it. It's just like what can you do?
Mm-hmm.
And then the harder part is like getting them to do it.
Yeah.
But people generally, when you talk to them, they know what to do. They just have trouble implementing that. And so they need one, encouragement, accountability,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe like a strategy in terms of doing the thing.
Yeah.
But people know that they need more fruits and vegetables. People know that they should be eating probably a
Yeah,
little
it's
more
not a lack of
protein, being
knowledge.
hydrated. Yeah. And so it's really just finding ways that you can connect with people and learn a little bit more about their lives and their situations and put a proposal forward that they can get on board with. And it's got to be something small enough that they can do it even on their most stressful day. So that's a question that I asked a lot of people. It's like, okay, think back in the last 6 months and think about your most stressful period, like your most stressful week where you were dealing with like all the shit was coming down at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, could you have handled one 15-minute workout 2 times a week? And people go, yeah, okay, let's do it. Prove to me now
But that's not
in the
even enough.
prove to me now in the not that stressful of a week, prove to me now that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And people go, oh, well, that's it. That's all you want me to do? Yeah. Start there. And so like, that's a really big like frame that I have is like, could you do this on your worst week?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is yes, then do it.
I think that's a good frame to have just because it, like you said, it moves dirt. You want to talk about that analogy too?
Yeah, that's John Wellborn.
Okay.
He's a power athlete guy, and so he's got a thing where he's just like, listen, if you have a goal that you want to accomplish, like think about a big ass pile of dirt. And he's like, some days you get a shovel, other days you get a spoon. Like you just need to move dirt from here to there.
Mm-hmm.
And Megan and I have even gone so far as to like, how is because she's got a business too. It's like, did you move dirt today? And it's we'll take it one step further and go, yeah, I used like chopsticks.
Yeah.
I was using chopsticks to move dirt today, but like I did move a little bit of dirt.
But it's important that I think there's a lot of value in there too. Even just talking with your significant other about are we making progress? Having those conversations. You talk about being healthy as parents, and neither one of us are going to sit here and act like we have everything figured out. But just that value of checking in and being on the same page with your spouse, I feel like makes that so much easier.
Yeah, it's a because you're running, in most cases you're running the same household, or even if you're not, you have to co-parent a kid or whatever. And so you got to be like on the same page to some degree.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Trying to start to look at things that we can give to people to run away with. What are the most common issues you run into with active adults. What issues are people walking into your clinic saying, man, I'm really dealing with this? And how do you help people avoid or handle those things?
Yeah. The most common thing that I see again is like this stupid easy thing from my perspective, right? And sometimes I almost feel like a fraud because it can be so impactful, but it's just like take whatever position your joint that hurts is most commonly in, move it in the opposite direction.
An example being,
An example being like, so our shoulders, right? So a lot of the shoulder people that I see have this whatever shoulder flare up, shoulder tweak, and we're just here out in front all day long. Okay. And like think of a movement where you're not doing that. Think about a movement where your elbow goes behind your body.
rare.
Rare. If
Unless
you're
I'm
if you're a
grabbing something
big
at the
dips
back.
guy,
Yeah.
like if you're doing a lot of dips, that's it. Like
Yep.
and then like in real life, like unless you do the dad tacks,
Reaching in the
like
back.
give me a few of your M&Ms or whatever, like
Yep.
you're just not doing it. And so it's just like, okay, let's take these shoulders that are constantly out here in front of the body. Let's put it up on a pedestal here and just get you opened up on the front side with some like passive shoulder extension. Same thing for the neck, right? You're here all day. And so we have people like tuck their chin, tip their head back.
Yep.
For the low back, it's a press
Press-ups.
up,
I hear you talk about press-ups all the
which
time.
looks like an up dog or a cobra in yoga. Just
Yep.
like, okay, your back is in this like mildly flexed position hours and hours and hours a day.
Yep.
And even if you go to yoga, you might hit that position, like 6-12 times. But again, is that enough to counteract the 8 hours of mild flexion that you did and then every time you bent over to pick something up? Generally, no. So we just give people these simple solutions, which is like, move your joints in the opposite direction. And we see a lot of times really good, really fast symptom relief.
Cool. What's the weirdest thing you've ever had to treat?
Um,
Or strangest?
the scoliosis, the young girls with like a severe scoliosis, those are pretty difficult. Those are always interesting.
Yeah.
Movement always helps them, but like you see a young girl with like a steep curve in her back, and that kind of freaks you out the first time.
I can
like
imagine.
it's kind of wild.
Where do
but
you even start with that?
yeah, in terms of just like movement, what movement can we get into your spine? Because a lot of times they're just super locked up.
Yep.
And by no means am I a scoliosis specialist. I've only had maybe 3 of those young girls come to me, but those always kind of throw me for a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, I see relatively active people that are doing workouts at least. Again, they get their 1 hour, 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Yep.
But they're just stuck in these modern positions for hours and hours on end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense, man. One other thing that I didn't get to that I want to bring back up is you and I went and had coffee recently and just talked about like business and life. And we have 2 boys. You just had your second kid. And you asked me about like, did something innately change when you had your second kid and your like internally around like your motivation, your desire, your this like pressure? Or was it when you just had your first boy? Or is it because I had a boy? I think I shared with you, for whatever reason, when we had our second kid, I felt more pressure to get my shit together, even than I had our first kid. I don't know why that was. And you had the same experience, or?
Yeah, it was yeah, and it's like weird because I feel it's almost this like guilty thing where you're like, should I have felt this like when she came along, when the first one came along? Like, why now? But yeah, I felt a bigger pull to like do the thing and go after the things that I want and provide for the family and be a better father and do all that other stuff more so. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's like, okay, I don't know if it's like 3 people feels like 2 of you and a tag along, and now
Yeah.
4 you're like, oh, this is an actual crowd that I have to like feed and take care of and manage,
Correct.
or what. But yeah, it's super weird that it happened to both of us.
Yeah, and
we're not the only 2 either. Like,
I haven't had that conversation with a ton of people in more like of an intimate setting. I've shared it some in the past, but there was something that clicked when we had our second, that it was just like, it's game time. Like I have to elevate my game to go to the next level, which I guess it makes sense on a really simple level of like, I have more responsibility now. I have more people looking after me, but it felt like it was a very, very distinct moment in my life where I had a choice to say, I'm either going to elevate to be the kind of father I need for my entire family, not just the second kid, or I'm going to kind of just stay the same. I don't know. I haven't put my thumb on it really, to be honest.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't explored it a whole lot more than, because now I'm in it. I'll go and think on it. I'll have an answer for you. But yeah, it's definitely
Until
like
next time.
it's definitely been a change for
Yeah.
sure.
Anything else that you would like to share with the folks who have joined us today?
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head, at least.
We touched on all the things I wanted to get your 2 cents on and
Yeah.
share experiences on, and I appreciate you, man. It's cool to be around other like-minded people. I think that's one of the things that was most exciting about this podcast is finding ways to be able to share thought processes and lifestyles and beliefs and just entertainment with other people who I feel like live a similar lifestyle and at least look at life through similar lenses. I feel like when you do put yourself in an environment of healthier people, and you obviously become a healthier person, but it feels like in today's day and age, your social circle is, even more important than it ever has been to be able to give you the chance to succeed.
Yeah, for sure.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate it, dude. But I'm sure this won't be the last time we'll have you on. I appreciate you joining us today.
Hell yeah, brother.
Catch you guys later. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard and want to hear more, you can follow us on social media and tune in anywhere you listen to podcasts.